Welcome to Our Heritage. We're going to begin today with a couple of questions we've been asked, and I'm going to answer them and kind of lead into what we're here for. First of all, people ask me, why do you spend so much time at the museum? Well, I'm not the only one up here. I have 17 wonderful volunteers. The only problem is I need 20 every month just to fill the slots. So if you want to volunteer, come be one of us. It's easy, just 3 hours a month. The other question is, why do you care so much about what goes on and in that museum? We have had several blessings to us at the Coffee County Historical Society. First of all, we had the Rogers Studio, Glenn Clower, donation of their glass plate negatives. Recently, we received some from Lane Studios, from Lane Bailey and his family. It just adds so much history and knowledge. And there's so much out there that people mistake and using trash or just say, well, this doesn't matter. A lady called me about 10 days ago and said she had some old files that she thought I might like. And she had done research several years ago at Satilla Regional Library and came across this information. And it was so important to her that she made a copy of it. And this, in front of me, is the only autobiography type information we have on Mary Hayes. One of those black ladies that really stressed education. She worked in her community. And today I want to read you an excerpt from her autobiography. Excuse me while I put on my glasses. I was born October the 1st, 1868. My mother died when I was 3 years old. Very little about her can I remember, but I recall the time when I would go to the potato patch and scratch potatoes. I lived with my sister until she married. I was 12 years old when I became housekeeper for my father and 4 brothers. My school days were limited. I studied my lessons on my way to school and many times would find my class on the floor reciting. My homework consisted of milking cows night and morning, cooking, laundry, and cleaning. After supper, I would spin a brooch of thread enough to weave 1 yard of cloth for myself, father, and 4 brothers. I made all their clothes by hand, knitted socks, stockings, and gloves. I plowed an ox and drove an ox cart too. I trapped birds and picked and sold them to buy Sunday clothes. Going to church was very important in my life. Sometimes I would walk 6 miles just to get to church. I would take my clothes and shoes in my hands and dress when I got near the church. When I was 20 years of age, my father married again. I left home and lived with my brother for a short while. Then I went out to work for a very good white woman for $5 per month. After I had worked for her for 2 years, she raised me to $10 a month. I worked for her for 2 more years, making a total of 4 years. Then I met and married a man named Albert Taylor. I was the mother of 6 children. The baby was born shortly after the death of the father. My husband had been ailing for about a year. He died in December. All the money I received for death claims was $25. He had bought 10 acres of land and had paid $18 on it. He had a 5-barrel stand of turpentine boxes cut on it. I had to give half of the gum to get the boxes chipped. Many times I took my mule and wagon, put a dip barrel in it, and a dip barrel of gum Saturday morning, take it to town, sell it to get food for my children. It was always night when I would return, and I would find the children asleep on the floor. The oldest girl, Martha, would be in the center with the 2 youngest children at her feet, and another one lying at her head. This would be the way I would find them on Saturday night. Doors would be open and the house dark. I would awaken them, cook and feed them, and put them to bed. Other means for helping us along was taking and washing and ironing. I would plow in the field until 10, 11 o'clock every day, go to the house, and iron until 1 o'clock or until it was cool enough to go back to work. The washing was mostly done at night. I raked pine trees and tallied boxes for a small fee. During this time of tallying, it would be snowing some days, and even during freezing weather, I had to go 3 or 4 miles to do the records. There would be the wagon shafts would have ice on them. I would take my children for 20 miles to pick cotton and camp out for sometimes 2 weeks at a time. Always I carried my Bible and put it under my head. Whatever chapter I turned to, I would read and take it for my daily guide. You have this at your house. You have memories. Let's record them before it's too late. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I had to coerce my next guest, Mr. Johnny Wilkerson. I'm not going to tell you how long I've known him, but I remembered when he was a teenager and played football. So that's a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But I wanted him here because of all he's done and seen through videography in Douglas and Coffee County. Tell me how you got started.
Well, I got started in when I lived in Savannah. When I left Douglas with Savannah, and that kind of jump-started what I'm doing now, and that is I started working with Savannah Civic Center, putting on shows, and my goal was to be a spotlight operator. Well, when you're a spotlight operator, you're working with directors, and show come to town, they have their own director, but you got to be able to listen stage right, stage left, and I found out that the cues I was taking from stage director, I could easily adapt that or go into television with a station. But then I thought maybe I'll move to Washington, D.C., but then I met this young lady and got married and started working here in Douglas and started doing this part-time. That's when desktop television came up. It was pretty big. And I started doing it part-time, and I found out this is what I like to do. I like history. But then that's how I got started. Back in 1985 is when I first started. I kind of used my daughter's birthday to gauge that. A year after she was born is when I got started. And, it led from like doing weddings, typically doing weddings and events, and then moved into, decided I'd go to school. Before I went full-time, I wanted to go to school and at Art Institute and went up there. So I wanted to learn a little more technology and terminology, know what the tape is doing,
Right.
So that helps you in editing. So I went to school and struggled with that. Like I said, I had a wife and 2 kids, but we made it, and then we started getting into industrial video, and then one day we came about with contracts with the city, agreement with the city, and just took off from there.
What did you do for the city? What was the first thing you did for the city?
First thing we did for the city and the city channel was Barnwell Royal Show. It was a fellow who came to town, and I can't say I was the first one to do Barnwell Royal Show, but he had some surplus equipment. He used to be in video production in the Army. He brought some equipment with him, but it wouldn't match what they had out there. The face was looking blue. Barnwell's face was looking blue and green. And Barnwell came to me and said, "Look, Johnny, can you do this? You went to school, because I can't. I'm not going. I can't. We can't continue this." So I was ready. I prepared myself, and I was ready, and I told him I could do it. And I remember we'll go out there, we'll shoot his show somewhere, maybe at his office, or sometimes we would rent a corner in one of the hotels, get the show, and I take it home, get it edited, and take equipment out there, and we'll plug it up, play it for about an hour, then unplug everything, and then take it back in. It was a lot of fun. I wouldn't say it's fun, it was just a lot of work, but we were determined.
Yeah. Well, technology has changed since then too.
Oh yeah.
And you still have to lug things and to set things up.
Yeah, you got to lug. Depending on how elaborate you want to go with your production. Yeah.
You did programs for the city, other programs for the city.
Yeah, from that, from that one show, the sports show, we started doing. I remember Joanne, your sister, called me to do the Christmas parade. That was when the Christmas parade was on Sunday,
right,
in daytime. And that, from that point, every year is doing that. And then, of course, the city, at that time, Danny Lewis was managing. He asked me about, why don't we just look at a contract where we do the city commission meetings and a couple of talk shows that we're doing today.
The same one.
Douglas Summer Mine, we started that back then. Our Heritage, we started that, but Our Heritage has kind of been off and on.
Right.
But now we're back at it, so.
We're back at it.
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
doing good.
So that's where, from that, they're doing other events, around the community. And putting everybody else's board meetings on, like the county and the school board.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I just love history, and I love the history sometimes we find in our little community here. I mean, I appreciate what you do.
Loving what you do makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Do you still do weddings?
Don't do weddings anymore. I love doing weddings, Carol, but it's just I want to stop when everybody was kind of bragging on you. I wouldn't say myself I was good. I just say when everybody was bragging on you. But one thing too, when we started doing television, it got tough to get the weddings out, and I kind of enjoyed television. To me, was a little fun,
Right.
And that's the area side I'll go do with that. Go with television, local
You never
TV.
wanted to be a teacher?
Well, I put it this way. Now, building my business, I was a substitute teacher for about 10 years. My father was a teacher. I think that's what you alluded to.
Teacher, yep.
But no, I always was technical, and I just like this, shows. And I tell people I've been putting on the shows since I was 18. One way or the other.
One way or the other, you're acting.
Yeah.
You do some ribbon cuttings and things like that around town too?
We have done that.
Or whatever?
Yeah, we have done that. Yes, Chambers is on with us, and we do. Right now, we mostly focus on the power lunch.
Right.
For the chamber. One time we had a show called Chamber Focus. A sit-down talk show similar to this, and but like I say, it's just like international television. Things go in and things come out. And
exactly.
You do something different the next time.
Now we're going to hit the one that everybody knows about is football.
Oh, football.
Football games. When did you start that?
I started that about the same time I started doing the Baltimore Royal show back in '86. Did my first football game. I tell people I started when they had the big Bolex 16 millimeter. I remember Caps Palasola was. I got my little trainer with him because he didn't have much patience with me, so I had to learn him home. I think the first game I shot, it was maybe an overexposed.
Right.
But I only shot about 3 games with it because by that time the school had ordered video equipment, and I remember my first game shooting with the video equipment was Cairo, Georgia. It's 11 degrees. It was one of those unusual winters in South Georgia, and they had me up in a little bird nest and.
Where it was nice and warm up there.
It
no
was
wind.
cold, and I had to go to a gut check then. Is this what I really want to do? I was afraid the tape was going to break, freeze up, or machine just kind of stop or whatever. But we got it done.
And how many years is that now?
Well, actually, I've actually filmed 27 years. It would be 30 years, but Coach Keith, didn't want to do it, so he wanted some students to do it. So for 3 years, I didn't do it. But I was involved, tried to stay involved with the program. But 27 years actually filming. Okay. And this is my. You didn't ask me, but this is my last year.
I was going to ask you because I know we had talked about that before.
Yeah.
And this is the swan song, so to speak.
Yeah. It was a tough decision. I thought I'd be doing it till 80, but due to health problems, I decided it might be best to let those young legs.
Well, when they make stadiums as high as that,
it is.
I keep telling them, I said, I want my seats lower. I need an oxygen tank halfway up.
Yeah. Well, I plan to be there.
Yeah.
I want to buy a season ticket and be there, root the boys on. I plan to be there.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you for all you have done through your business and everything, and especially all the help you've given us up here on Our Heritage. Because if y'all didn't know it or not, I'm not much of a actress somebody said, have you ever seen your program? And I said, no. If I ever saw it, I'd never do this again. Because if there's one thing I hate is myself on camera.
Yeah.
But I feel at ease because you're there and I feel comfortable.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate what you do. I mean, this is